Tonight, breaking news as we come on the air, new fallout. Donald Trump, Kamala Harris after what was said at Madison Square Garden about Latinos and Puerto Ricans. And the major name now standing with Kamala Harris on this. Also tonight, fire set to ballots in 3 locations and potentially record-breaking heat for Halloween. Ginger Z is here. First tonight, just over a week now until Election Day, more than 45 million ballots already cast in this country. Tonight, the new fallout late today after Donald Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden. The backlash now over racist and sexist comments and the jokes about Latinos and Puerto Ricans. Bad Bunny now standing with Kamala Harris and the vice president arguing that voters are exhausted by Donald Trump and the divisive rhetoric and what the Trump campaign is now saying about this tonight. And the video this evening, the moment with Michigan's Governor Gretchen Whitmer and Kamala Harris at a bar and what the microphones picked up. Also tonight, 3 ballot drop boxes set on fire, video showing flaming ballots being pulled out of one of the boxes. The FBI joining the investigation and what they say voters should do. Overseas tonight, the Pentagon believes about 10,000 North Korean troops are right now training in Russia and where they're headed on the border with Ukraine. Here in the U.S., the disturbing images, authorities say a neighbor cutting down a tree, shot in the neck, they say by his next-door neighbor. The potential for record heat on Halloween, near 80-degree highs in several major cities in the Northeast. Ginger is here. A Hollywood actor known for his roles in Anchorman, Bob's Burgers, and Arrested Development, tonight sentenced for his role on January 6th. The new development tonight involving McDonald's and that deadly E. coli outbreak, what we've learned. And the surprise in the audience. It had Adele in tears and the audience on its feet.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to start another week with all of you at home. We begin tonight with the race for president. Just 8 days to go. In fact, 1 week from tomorrow night, we'll be on the air with our election night coverage. Already tonight, 45 million Americans have cast their ballots. Tonight, both candidates with their closing arguments, their final sprint, and former President Donald Trump. And the fallout tonight, the backlash over racist and sexist comments and jokes about Latinos and Puerto Ricans, delivered at Trump's major rally at Madison Square Garden in New York. Former First Lady Melania Trump, in a rare appearance, introducing her husband, who was the last to speak. But it was some of the speakers invited by the campaign to speak before the former president who made immediate headlines, including this comedian and what was said about Latinos and Puerto Ricans, some of it too profane to play on TV. This all played out as Vice President Kamala Harris was visiting a Puerto Rican restaurant in Philadelphia, reaching out to voters. Tonight, the vice president saying Americans are exhausted by the divisive rhetoric, and now the influential performer Bad Bunny sending out Kamala Harris's message to 46 million followers, and what the Trump campaign is now saying about all this. Rachel Scott leading us off with the Trump campaign in Georgia tonight.
Tonight in Georgia, former President Donald Trump gushing about his massive weekend rally at New York's Madison Square Garden.
So last night we had a great rally at Madison Square Garden.
But that rally was marked by racism, sexism, and vitriol. Trump's campaign now on the defensive after speakers like this.
I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah, I think it's called Puerto Rico.
A Trump campaign spokeswoman saying that joke doesn't reflect the views of President Trump or the campaign. But this speaker was invited by the Trump campaign. And there was more than just that. This is what he said about Latinos overall.
And these Latinos, they love making babies, too. Just know that. They do.
The rest of those words, too profane to play. He also made a crude joke about black people and watermelons. And he wasn't the only person on stage to use racist language. Tucker Carlson mocking Kamala Harris, the first black and South Asian vice president.
Votes because she's just so impressive. As the first Samoan, Malaysian, low IQ, former California prosecutor ever to be elected president.
Today, Vice President Harris firing back, accusing Trump of fueling hate and division, saying Americans are exhausted.
What he did last night is not a discovery. It is just more of the same and maybe more vivid than usual. Donald Trump spends full time trying to have Americans point their finger at each other, fans the fuel of hate and division, and that's why people are exhausted with him.
Those words about Puerto Rico sparking particular outrage. While the rally was going on, Harris happened to be greeting voters at a Puerto Rican restaurant in Philadelphia. Her campaign releasing this video.
Puerto Ricans deserve better.
Highly influential Puerto Rican superstar Bad Bunny then sharing it with his 46 million Instagram followers.
There is so much at stake in this election for Puerto Rican voters and for Puerto Rico.
He also shared this part of the video.
I will never forget what Donald Trump did and what he did not do when Puerto Rico needed a caring and a competent leader. He abandoned the island, tried to block aid after back-to-back devastating hurricanes, and offered nothing more than paper towels and insults.
In battleground Pennsylvania, Governor Josh Shapiro speaking directly to the state's 500,000 Puerto Rican residents.
If Donald Trump really wanted to disassociate himself with that, the first thing he would have said when he came onto the stage at Madison Square Garden was, hey, listen, I heard that person's attempted humor. It was not funny. I stand with the Puerto Rican community. He didn't do that.
Sources tell ABC News that Donald Trump's campaign debated internally over whether to even send out a statement condemning those words, calling Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. And again, David, this is a comedian that was invited by the campaign to speak, and he was not the only one who made racist, sexist, and crude remarks at that rally last night. The question now is whether it was even worth it. With just days to go until this election, Donald Trump has a rally here in Georgia tonight, and then tomorrow he heads to all-important Pennsylvania, David.
Rachel Scott live in Georgia tonight with the Trump campaign. Rachel, thank you. Vice President Kamala Harris in Michigan tonight, focusing on the economy. She was at a semiconductor manufacturing facility in Saginaw, promising to create high-skilled jobs, high-paying jobs for everyone, not just those with college degrees. And tonight, hear the video, the moment Kamala Harris with Michigan's Governor Gretchen Whitmer, they were at a bar, and what the microphones picked up. Mary Bruce with the Harris campaign in Michigan tonight.
Tonight, Vice President Kamala Harris focusing on all-important Michigan, lasering in on the economy and boosting American manufacturing.
We're not going to have China beat us in the competition for the 21st century.
Harris visiting a semiconductor facility in Saginaw, promising as president to focus on creating highly skilled jobs for people without college degrees.
I believe that as we think of industries of the future and the future of America's workforce, we need to get in front of this idea that the only high-skilled jobs require a college degree. It's just not true.
As she travels through the key state, Harris saying she hears what voters are telling her about their kitchen table concerns.
They want to make sure that we're going to lower prices. They know that the price of groceries, for example, is too high. I know it too.
Over the weekend, Michelle Obama joining Harris on the trail for the first time. In searing remarks, the former First Lady said Harris is being held to a higher standard than Donald Trump.
So I hope you'll forgive me if I'm a little frustrated that some of us are choosing to ignore Donald Trump's gross incompetence while asking Kamala to dazzle us at every turn.
And in a campaign where abortion is a top issue, as Trump boasts about appointing 3 of the Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe versus Wade, Michelle Obama with an impassioned plea to men to take women's lives seriously.
Are you as men prepared to look into the eyes of the women and children you love and tell them that you supported this assault on our safety? And to the women listening, we have every right to demand that the men in our lives do better by us. We have to use our voices to make these choices clear to the men that we love. Our lives are worth more than their anger and disappointment. And we are more than just baby-making vessels.
Harris herself acknowledging she has to make up ground among men. Microphones picking up her conversation with Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer at a bar in Kalamazoo.
I've been bugging your whole team. I'm like, okay, we got to do this, and this. But everyone's trying to set me Yeah. Oh, we have microphones in here. I was listening to everything. Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay. So, well,
you'll
now
bleep
you tell
my
us.
F words.
We just told all the family secrets.
Her campaign is keenly aware of the gender gap. Harris is leading with women, but Trump leads among men, and Harris is now trying to narrow that gap. Now, tomorrow, Harris will be back in Washington, outlining her closing argument in a major address at the exact same site where Donald Trump spoke to his supporters before they attacked the Capitol on January 6th. Harris hoping to hammer home what's at stake in this race. David.
Mary Bruce with the Harris campaign in Michigan. Mary, thank you. Next tonight, the FBI joining the investigation now after 3 ballot drop boxes were set on fire in the Pacific Northwest, destroying hundreds of ballots. Images of burning paper being pulled out of a drop box. This is Vancouver, Washington, just before dawn this morning. And what officials are now saying voters should do. Here's our Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas, now.
Tonight, the FBI on the hunt for a suspected arsonist behind 3 fiery attacks on ballot drop boxes, destroying hundreds of ballots in the Pacific Northwest.
We do have smoke coming out of the ballot box.
Officials say the fires, only miles apart in Portland, Oregon and Vancouver, Washington, were sparked by incendiary devices attached to the outside of the drop boxes.
Any form of voter intimidation, disruption, blocking of access, or vandalism at these sites will not be tolerated.
Authorities concerned that someone could get hurt, releasing a photo of the suspect's Volvo. This box set ablaze just before dawn in Vancouver, Washington. Officers prying open the box, then pulling out ballots still burning. An hour earlier in Portland, a second fire.
It looks like there's some kind of device attached to the ballot box.
Luckily, only 3 ballots damaged because of fire suppressant inside the box. It comes as Homeland Security officials today issued a new bulletin warning that domestic violent extremists are posting online threats of violence toward election officials or infrastructure to prevent perceived fraud or to retaliate against it.
State officials in Washington are calling the arsonists acts of terror as they step up patrols in the region. Voters who are concerned their ballots might be impacted can contact their local election office or track their ballots online to see if they've been received. David?
Really unsettling. Pierre Thomas. Pierre, thank you. Next tonight, the Pentagon says it now has evidence that roughly 10,000 North Korean troops are in fact training inside Russia and likely headed to the border with Ukraine. Here's our chief foreign correspondent, Pannell now.
Tonight, NATO warning many North Korean soldiers are now moving toward the battlefield in Russia's Kursk region, north of Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv, where Ukrainian forces seized hundreds of square miles of territory. The Pentagon today confirming 10,000 North Korean troops are now training in Russia. Ukraine saying this video shows them there.
We are increasingly concerned that Russia intends to use these soldiers in combat or to support combat operations against Ukrainian forces in Russia's Kursk Oblast.
President Biden today addressing reports former President Donald Trump had several conversations with Vladimir Putin after Trump left the White House, which both have denied. The president also responding to North Korean troops inside Russia.
It's very dangerous, very dangerous. And the idea that Kamala's opponent is talking to Putin and discussing what should be done, I mean, anyway.
David, the U.S. says if the North Koreans do enter the war, they'll be considered fair game in combat. This could mark a dangerous escalation in this conflict. David?
Pannell with us tonight. Thank you. Back here in the U.S. and the disturbing images from Minneapolis tonight. Authorities say a man who was cutting down a tree was shot in the neck by his own neighbor. Authorities say the victim had called police 19 times about his neighbor's threats. Here's Alex Perez.
Tonight, a suspect now in custody after this disturbing video. Police say it shows Minneapolis homeowner Davis Maturi trimming a tree outside his house when suddenly he's shot from above and collapses. That gunfire allegedly coming from the next-door neighbor, John Sawchuk, who authorities say had been harassing Maturi for over a year. Maturi speaking from his hospital bed.
It was a very traumatic moment. Not only shot, but shot in your neck. And the people are fighting to save your life.
Sawchuk facing attempted murder and assault charges that court documents say were motivated in whole or in part because of Maturi's race. According to the criminal complaint, the suspect engaged in almost constant harassment of the victim and his wife since they purchased their home in September 2023. The couple calling police 19 times.
It ruined so many nights, so many days and evenings.
That tree near the property line. In the past, the suspect allegedly telling the victim, "Touch my tree again and I'll kill you." Minneapolis police facing criticism for not arresting Sawchuk sooner and this controversial comment.
The situation escalated in part
by actions that were precipitated by the victim.
But the chief later saying they failed the victim after dozens of unsuccessful attempts to arrest Sawchuk.
We failed this victim. He should not have been shot.
And David, authorities say the suspect suffers from mental illness and owns several firearms. He's due in court tomorrow. David?
Alex Perez on this tonight. Alex, thank you. We're going to turn now to the record-breaking heat across the country. Halloween, in fact, could be one of the warmest ever recorded in parts of the Northeast. It could be nearly 80 degrees here in New York City on Halloween. Let's get right to our chief meteorologist, Ginger Z, back with us tonight. Hey, Ginger.
Hey, David, the latest 90-plus degree days happen for El Paso, Texas, Wichita, Kansas today, and tomorrow we'll have many more of those daily records on the map. You're seeing them circled there. Minneapolis they tied today, but could break tomorrow close to 80. 78 Detroit, Memphis, 84, Little Rock, 86. Now 10 to 25 degrees above average, going to slide east, and as you mentioned, Halloween will be second highest on record. Philadelphia, Boston, New York City. But look what happens with that cold front. Minneapolis goes from 80 tomorrow to 48 on Thursday. So it will slide through. Some severe storms with that, too. But speaking of storms, we are watching with 5 weeks to go yet in hurricane season, that 40% chance in the Caribbean for becoming our next named storm, David.
All right, Ginger Z here with us tonight. We'll see you first thing in the morning on GMA. Thank you. When we come back here, an actor known for his roles in Anchorman, Bob's Burgers, and Arrested Development, tonight sentenced for his role on January 6th. The new development involving McDonald's and that deadly E. coli outbreak, what we've learned, and the surprise of the audience for Adele, the audience on his feet. And you'll see it here in a moment. Tonight, an actor known for his roles in Anchorman, Arrested Development, and Bob's Burgers, now sentenced to 1 year and a day in federal prison for the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Jay Johnston pleading guilty to interfering with law enforcement officers. Prosecutors had asked for a longer sentence, saying he showed no remorse by then dressing as the QAnon shaman during a Halloween party 2 years after the Capitol attack. When we come back here tonight, that McDonald's E. coli outbreak and what McDonald's is now going to do in a moment. To the index late today, the USDA confirming beef patties and quarter pounders are not the likely source of the McDonald's E. coli outbreak. At least 75 people sickened in 13 states. One person died. The FDA believes the culprit is slivered onions. McDonald's will return quarter pounders in the affected areas without onions for now. When we come back, the surprise for Adele and the whole audience in a moment. Finally tonight here, the surprise for Adele and for everyone in that audience. 2 superstar voices and 1 long ovation. Tonight, the emotional surprise when Adele realizes it's Celine Dion in front of a packed, sold-out crowd in Las Vegas. During one of her final performances at the Coliseum at Caesars, Adele spotting Celine Dion right there. Adele hugging her, both in tears. Reaching for each other's faces. The 2 exchanging words before Adele returns to the show. After Celine wiping away tears, and then this from Adele.
Give it up to Miss Celine Dion.
Celine standing, waving, everyone on their feet, cheering for her. And then Adele offering these words to her friend.
One of my favorite people of all time.
Celine Dion had performed on that very stage more than 20 years ago during her own residency. She's been candid about her battle with a rare autoimmune neurological disorder, canceling tour dates 2 years ago, and that dramatic comeback at the Paris Olympics. Tonight, Adele sharing this photo, writing, "I've been performing in Celine Dion's room at the Coliseum for almost 2 years now. It was the only venue I wanted to play in Vegas because it was built for her. I have a picture of her right next to the stage that I touch every night before I walk on." And then, writing directly to Celine Dion, "I love you so very much. Words will never sum up what you mean to me or what you coming to my show means, let alone how it felt seeing you back in your palace with your beautiful family." Tonight, the embrace one audience will never forget. An incredible moment for that crowd. I'm David Muir. I'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Good night.
Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir, America's most watched newscast.